Studio Ghibli's Princess Mononoke never picks a side in its central conflict. It's not solely an environmentalist fantasy, but it also strongly criticizes the humans who are encroaching on the natural world for profit and power. And think about how crazy that is for a second, especially for a kids' movie in 1997. The film simply longs for peace between the two sides, and like so many other of Hayao Miyazaki's works, it asks how are we supposed to live in a world so filled with conflict. First, I want to take a closer look at Mononoke's portrayal of nature, and not only how it's different from other films, but why. Now, environmentalism is a theme that's present in pretty much every Miyazaki movie. Sometimes it's obvious, like in Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, but usually it's more subtle, with the gorgeous and peaceful landscapes acting as a point of contrast with the ugly and oily machinery of human civilization. And what ultimately sets Princess Mononoke apart from his other works, in my opinion, is Miyazaki's willingness to show the ugly side of nature. When most movies want to get across an environmentalist message, they will show adorable, almost anthropomorphized animals that draw sympathy from the audience. But not Miyazaki. Some of the animals here are straight up disgusting and really weird. He doesn't shy away from the fact that nature and its processes are incredibly different from the human world, and even embraces the idea that it's something we can't really fully understand. Rather than creating animals who are basically just humans with fur, it presents nature as the ultimate unknown other. This choice can be seen pretty clearly in the design of the forest spirit. He's off-putting, so much that it is kind of scary. What's more, his role in the story is downright confusing, sometimes actively putting our heroes in harm's way. Not only that, but the animals we do see aren't even that likable. They're vengeful and prejudiced, which they have a reason for, but it's just not what you'd expect. In many ways, Lord Akoto is almost as bad as the humans, willing to let his entire clan die in battle rather than flee and surrender their land. The only cute animal sidekick we get to latch onto is Yakol, and I love Yakol. I know I keep bringing this up, but could you imagine if the Lorax pulled this crap? If the story ended with him pulling out an axe and saying, "I'm done speaking for the trees. Now I must fight for them," and then he charges off to battle and kills like a dozen guys. Mononoke offers a gritty, almost unflinching look at nature that accepts that we can't really understand it. But what about the other side? If Miyazaki doesn't fully take nature's side, how does he feel about the humans? So, a lot of people see Lady Eboshi as the main villain of the story, and it's hard to blame them. Under her command, the residents of the newly settled Irontown strip the surrounding forest for resources, all the while attacking any local wildlife who try to protect their homes. Representing humanity's relentless need for expansion, her ultimate goal is to kill the great forest spirit, essentially killing nature itself to create the richest land in the world. So yeah, pretty easy to see why most people don't immediately take her side. I mean, she has evil business tycoon written all over her. But if we look a little deeper, as Miyazaki begs us to do, we can discover why our main character, Ashitaka, doesn't quite see her as just another big bad that needs to be dealt with. Not only does she employ and fairly treat women, a rarity during this time, if not just a straight-up historical inaccuracy, she does the same for people with leprosy. Japan has a frustratingly long history of discrimination and prejudice against people infected with leprosy. Laws abolishing the practice of segregation were only enacted in the late 1990s. As a heavily bandaged man in the camp says to Ashitaka, "We are lepers. The world hates us and fears us, but she took us in and washed our rotting flesh. She's the only one who saw us as human beings." Eboshi treats them well and is generally beloved among her community, and this streak of compassion follows Lady Eboshi throughout the film. When she learns of Ashitaka's curse, she apologizes, saying she's sincerely sorry and that she should be the one with the curse. While it may initially seem as though she's motivated solely by greed and a contempt for the wildlife, she's actually a leader doing the best she can to provide for and protect her people. In fact, that's why she's invading the forest, to get the resources her people need. To top it off, Eboshi even gains redemption at the end, vowing to create Irontown completely new, presumably without harming the environment. Miyazaki has said that Lady Eboshi is his favorite character in Princess Mononoke, and I think I understand why. She embodies the idea that being a leader means making the tough decisions, even if it's something you don't want to do. It's not a justification, and eventually she does learn the error of her ways, but it's a new and interesting take on what is ultimately the central question of the film. Life sucks, so how do we go on living? Both Eboshi and the Wolf Queen have chosen a life of violence and hatred, with the justification of protecting their loved ones. Although Eboshi is undoubtedly the aggressor, in a lot of ways they're two sides of the same coin. Neither side is really totally good or totally evil, and creating a war with two complex sides was absolutely an intentional move on Miyazaki's part, because it's realistic. 90% of conflicts in the real world aren't cut and dry, and more often than not, there are heroes on both sides. That may be a hot take. Please don't come after me, I'm just a silly little uninformed English major, and I did say 90. So, through the perspective of Ashitaka, an outsider whose world is being literally poisoned by this conflict, Miyazaki asks how we can live among all this chaos, all this rampant complexity. The movie begins with Nago, the Boar clan's leader, attacking Ashitaka's village after his hatred of Eboshi's forces turned him into a demon. Before dying, he inflicts a deadly curse on Ashitaka that can only be cured by resolving the conflict between the two sides. His damaged arm is a symbol of the unintentional harm that war causes, ruining the lives of people who never even had anything to do with the conflict in the first place. Although Eboshi claims that the only way to lift the curse is to completely wipe out one side, thereby ending the conflict, Ashitaka strives for a peaceful resolution, never fully taking a side. It's not easy. Upon hearing Eboshi's plans, Ashitaka nearly kills her, his curse swelling up, eager to release the rage inside him. But one of the lepers steps in, and for my money, it's the one time when Miyazaki himself speaks directly to the audience. He says, "You must see with eyes unclouded by hate. See the good in that which is evil, and see the evil in that which is good. Pledge yourself to neither side, but vow instead to preserve the balance that exists between the two." This is Miyazaki's thesis statement, his instructions for how to live in a world of hatred and conflict, and Ashitaka is supposed to be our role model. Even though it may be tempting, instead of picking a side and labeling everyone else as the bad guys, we have to accept the ambiguity present in our lives. It's the only way to achieve true peace, and the only way not to be completely spoiled by anger. But, and this is crucial to understand, it's never going to be all sunshine and roses. As much as Princess Mononoke has what seems like a fairy tale ending, with even Lady Eboshi resolving to change her ways, it's not like everything is solved. Human civilization and nature will always be at odds with each other, illustrated by how Sand can't forgive humanity despite her love for Ashitaka. But Ashitaka accepts this, and rather than trying to fully reconcile the two sides, he resolves to make the best of it by living with the humans and visiting Sand in the woods. Although love can't fully solve the conflict by itself, it has its place. The question of how to live during troubled times isn't something that's unique to Mononoke. In fact, it's probably present in just about every Miyazaki film. The Wind Rises explores what it means to be an artist during troubled times. Porco Rosso is a look at survivor's guilt, and Howl's Moving Castle is literally about a man running away from war because he just wants to be left alone. And although I still can't make head nor tails of The Boy and the Heron, I have read the book it's based on, titled, well, you guessed it. The beauty of Mononoke is in its nuance, the fact that it doesn't have all the answers, but it begs you to keep trying to figure them out. It doesn't lie to its audience, even though that audience is made up of mostly kids, and wow, is that intimidating and remarkable and special. Thank you for listening, and try to remember to see with eyes unclouded.